Hello and welcome to Meet the Candidates here on WCMU. I'm David Nicholas and we're talking with Jocelyn Benson, the Democratic candidate for Michigan's statewide office of Secretary of State, first elected in 2018 and now seeking a second term in that office. Welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
What do you see as you campaign for the second term, and what are the voters telling you that they see as the top one or two issues in this campaign?
I think people are very concerned about the state of our democracy. There's been a lot of misinformation that has really flown into our state and others from folks who have been trying to further political agendas, but none of it can really take away the truth, which was that in 2020, we had the highest turnout election in our history in Michigan, and it was secure, and the results were an accurate reflection of the will of the people. And yet, even so, we've seen an unprecedented effort to try to deny that truth and really confuse voters about it, to cause them to lose potential faith that they should have, and they have every reason to have, in our democracy. So protecting our democracy, I think, is top of mind. And I think the other issue is people just want government to work better for them. And we've tried to do that through my office on how we deliver licenses and other services to our citizens. And I think people feel that if you participate in our democracy and if you believe and elect people who reflect your values, you should have a government, you should see the results. You should see results and you should feel the government is working for you.
In the past, and this really goes all the way back to the election of 2000 and the so-called hanging chads, there was this discussion for many, many years about the integrity and the reliability of voting machines. I know that there was a lot of effort done to address that. But when we look at what took place in 2020 and the years since now leading up to this election, is there concern then about the polling place or the security and the reliability of any of that voting and ballot counting process?
We have concerns that people may try to disrupt the process, people who have been misinformed about the process itself. We've heard candidates tell people to unplug voting machines. We've heard others allege that they want to stop people from, stop valid votes from being counted. So all of that we're aware of. And as in any election, we prepare for every contingency with the hope that will minimize or eliminate any potential disruptions. I think the bottom line is we endured and overcame a lot of challenges in 2020 and still saw a smooth election. So those same things that we did then, we're doing again now, working with law enforcement to protect our poll workers, ensuring our polls are fully staffed, working to make sure everyone has the materials they need to run a smooth election, and then ensuring voters have the information they need to exercise their options to vote, whether they choose to vote from home ahead of time or at their clerk's office before Election Day or in person at their polling place on Election Day itself.
Basically the same question through the lens of the redrawn districts. This was long talked about. Then there was a great amount of debate leading up to it and a rather truncated process in getting this all done, court challenges and so forth. Now that the redrawn maps have been in place, have gone through the August primary, do they present any challenge in terms of folks maybe that didn't vote in the primary, knowing where they are going to be able to go to cast their ballot either in advance or in person? Do you sense any adjustments that need to be made to deal with now the new shape of the voting districts in the state?
Yes, we do want to make sure voters all across the state are informed about the choices they'll be making on the ballot and what districts they are in. So at michigan.gov/vote, people can get information on all of those fronts. They can see a sample ballot. They can read about the candidates and find links to learn more about the candidates on the ballot that they'll be weighing in on. It's one of the reasons also, if you choose to vote absentee or ahead of time, it gives you more time to consider who you want to vote for, in particular if you are in a new district. Voters have also received from their clerks a postcard over the last few months that indicates what precinct, what district they're in. But if anyone has any questions, that michigan.gov/vote website is their portal to find their polling location, their local clerk's office, and everything they need to know about their new district and voting requirements.
Been doing these types of programs now for 20 years, and it's always held up that so much of the state of California is governed by the ballot proposals and sometimes innumerable ones that appear on those ballots. We do have 3 on this ballot, and yes, they went through the process of gathering the signatures, being approved by the Board of Canvassers and the like. As you read these proposals, and in particular the election officials, the local officials that you are in contact with that are seeking the leadership and guidance from you, is there any concern about the way any of these are worded that could cause confusion? I'm not going to bring up past discussions over some, but there have been some even recently that some would say people did not read closely enough. What is your opinion on the way these 3 proposals are structured?
Well, I think it's really important for voters to read through the details. And we see right now a lot of groups are trying to confuse voters about what the petition language is and what the impact would be. On our website, michigan.gov/vote, you can get the entire ballot proposal language as well as a summary that details the impact. That's in some ways the most reliable way to get information about the proposals themselves and the impact they would have. There's also a lot of, and I'm grateful for organizations like the Detroit Free Press and MLive and others that have provided a nonpartisan glimpse into the initiatives themselves and talk about their impact. I would consider those sources more reliable than some of the partisan groups or others that are trying to confuse people about the initiatives. But above all, you can read the language itself in pure form at michigan.gov/vote and make the decision for yourself on how to vote on them.
On issues like these, you and your fellow secretaries of state nationwide, we look to the federal law to regulate, but again, this has been an ongoing problem for years. The influence of out-of-state groups, the influence of so-called dark money that play into either candidate races or misinformation campaigns about ballot proposals, all of these things up and down the ballot in one state or another. You've mentioned now already twice the website that is there. Is there any other protection that you could take at the statewide level to keep some of these things from hitting the airwaves, from influencing voters in a negative way?
I think really looking at deceptive practices, just in the same way that we ban false advertising for products, we should look at whether and when people lie about not necessarily about a candidate, but certainly about the procedures of voting, and seek consequences for those who just knowingly spread misinformation. Until we do that, we're going to see it continue to spread as really a strategy for deterring people from participating or otherwise confusing them. A healthy democracy requires an informed and engaged electorate, and this misinformation is really harming our ability to have either of those things. That said, not only our office, but local clerks can provide trusted information about voting procedures, so you can always contact your local clerk as well. There's also a hotline that people can call if they have any questions, 866-R-VOTE. That way, if you encounter a problem on Election Day or have any other challenges throughout the process of you casting your vote, you have a lifeline that you can call and which someone will be able to sort through any questions you have, from finding your polling place to even questions about how to make sure your ballot, if you're voting absentee, gets in on time.
When you talk about the achievements and the efforts in a first term of improving the efficiencies as far as regular activities that engage the Secretary of State's office, do you have any proposals, goals, things that you need or believe in terms of further work that can be done should you be elected to a second term?
Yes, I strongly believe government just should work better for every citizen. In my first term, we've delivered real results, completely transforming how our customer service operations work within our state agency, making sure that if people go to a branch office, they don't have to wait hours in order to get their simple business done with the state. Now, branch visits are on an average of 20 minutes or less. At the same time, we've moved a lot of services online. So we want to build on that by having not just more services available outside of branches and grocery stores, but we want to expand our mobile offices as well. In the last few months, we've launched 3 mobile offices that bring government to the people, to senior centers and other places, libraries, community centers, places where people already are, where they can go to and get branch services without having to go to a separate branch office. So I would like to see 7 mobile offices in the field, and that means from the UP to Central Michigan to Hillsdale and beyond, every corner of Michigan will be served by a branch office that will meet people where they are. We also want to launch mini branches in places like Meijer and Kroger, so that just like you can do your banking in person, oftentimes while grocery shopping, that you can have that in-person service as well as the self-service stations that are already there. And finally, on the democracy side, we need to do more to combat misinformation. There are no signs that it's going to lessen after this election, and I want to build bipartisan partnerships all across the state with people at the local level to talk to voters about the truth of their democracy, so that not just on election time, but all times, we're equipping voters with the knowledge of how to sift through the noise and identify facts and data about their democracy so that they can have rightly placed faith that when they vote, their vote will count and that the results of the election are accurate.
Just a couple of minutes left, and I want to give you the opportunity for a final message to the voters. But another question on the local level, and yes, local governments have to oversee those processes in terms of how their departments and such are run. But do you hear any common concerns from local election officials, things that you feel could be addressed at the state level to assist or provide a better structure, assistance, funding, whatever the case may be statewide, something that you would present as a goal should you be elected to a second term?
Yeah, I think above and beyond, we need more investment and partnership from our state legislature, working with election officials to both enact policies that reflect what they need to run smooth elections and ensure they have the funding to make those policies real. And too often we see partisan-driven legislation coming from lawmakers as opposed to good government or nonpartisan policies that election officials want. So we want to see a steady stream of funding for our elections to ensure we have enough resources to hire people and put machines and other things in place to continue to build secure systems in our state. We also want to see more protections for election officials themselves so that at a time when they are facing increased harassment as a result of misinformation, that they have more protections for themselves, their families, and there are higher consequences for those who would try to interfere with our democracy. And then finally, there's been a lot of said about pre-processing, the ability to begin processing absentee ballots prior to Election Day. There have been some minor changes to the law over the last few weeks without any funding to make them real. We want actual pre-processing in Michigan for every clerk to be able to, prior to the election, begin pre-processing ballots so that voters can get results as soon as possible after the polls close. Those simple changes to the law are what we need from our lawmakers. I hope to see them come to fruition in a second term, and I'll certainly continue working with our clerks to make sure that happens.
To take all of these issues, to bring them to one final message you would want to leave for the voters as they get set to go to the polls in our last 30 seconds, what would that message be?
That I believe in delivering real results for Michiganders, and I believe that government should work for everyone. We've done that in my first term in transforming and improving the driver's licensing and other aspects of our state while also protecting every voice and every vote, which I'll continue to do if voters give me their support for a second term.
We appreciate your willingness to talk to the issues, to talk to the prospective voters for this statewide office. Thank you very much for the time.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
We've been talking with Jocelyn Benson, Michigan's current Secretary of State, seeking re-election to a second term for the statewide office. I'm David Nicholas. For all of us here at Meet the Candidates, remember to go out and cast your vote on Tuesday, November 8th. All qualifying candidates were invited to participate in this series. Following the redraw of Michigan House, Michigan Senate, and congressional districts, check with local officials to make sure you are properly registered. Election Day is Tuesday, November 8th.